Welcome to the fourth episode of a Discourse from the First Church of the Presence of God. I like to talk about angels a great deal. They're extremely significant in ways that most of us are unaware of. I think a lot of us think of angels as just these creatures of a certain amount of divine power who travel about from place to place and often intrude themselves in human affairs to the advantage of someone desperately in need of them, say like an apostle or one of the good guys who's surrounded by representatives of the darkness of the age. We have considerable amount of those at this time, and I probably shouldn't say that. I don't want to appear as if I'm disparaging a certain element, who are probably more likely just associated with deep materialism as opposed to like actual darkness. Because just like the people who think that they are serving the devil or learning the dark arts, maybe entirely just confused about everything that's going on. And also probably don't know that God and the devil are the same thing. It's a matter of perception. Bad people see God as the devil. In fact, whoever bad people see is through a filter of their own motivations and those things that inspire them, which operate at a specific bandwidth called the carnal bandwidth. And within that framework, God wears a mask. God doesn't appear as himself in that format because God is light. More than that, God is conscious light. So in locations of darkness, well, God might not appear as light to people who live in darkness. I think we can say that that's a safe assumption, as if any assumption were indeed safe. In any case, as far as angels go, there's been a lot of discussion, I've noticed in books anyway, over the centuries, and certainly in modern day formats between people who've got various opinions, all of which serve whatever their personal interests are. You do notice that about people, right? They form opinions based on what they're after or how they want things to look because there's something in it for them. Very rarely do you see someone dispassionately representing the truth of things, because then there's no telling who it's going to benefit unless it's someone who's really into the truth to begin with. And there are such people. You've probably heard about them. You may not have ever met any of them, but they exist. In any case, angels, to be very definitive, and I'll die on this hill. Actually, I'm immortal, so it's probably a silly thing to say. All right, just consider that a metaphor. I'm not dying on any hills anytime soon, or valleys for that matter either. However, angels are a direct expression of God. God is imperceptible. You cannot see God. You can see a light, a brilliant, but can you actually see light? No, you see by light. You don't see light itself, okay? And that's in the realm of forms, where they stand out in contrast with each other and yada, yada, yada. In any case, angels, each angel is a specific specialization of a power of God, an ability, a perspective, an area of watchfulness. But everything that happens in front of the gaze, the view of an angel is directly transmitted to God Almighty. Angels are God's fingers and toes, God's heart, God's mind, elements thereof, parts thereof. Just like the brain has all these different facets and features, you could say that angels, they represent the different elements therein. Well, think about that for a minute. Angels are God insofar as God can be known or expressed through a limited format or form or feature. It is God narrowed down or channeled into a particular expression. But God himself in totality, incomprehensible, cannot be realized. Just don't even think about it. Okay, this is why the very wisest among us always say, I don't know. And I met a representative of the very wisest among us once, and that is, indeed is what he said more of than anything else. I don't know. Oh, I should mention Binky is here with us again this evening. As you can see, Binky has got his attention riveted right now on what's being said. He's looking at me at the reflection of the camera, so if you want to know where his attention's at. Binky is my puka. I believe I described a P-U-K-K-A, I think, in some preceding week. You'll have to look it up if you've forgotten or never got it in the first place or didn't watch it. Yeah, let's not tumble around in the waves here of distraction, because there's plenty of distraction going on anyway, isn't there? Oh, yes, my precious. There's a lot of it. We live in a world of distractions. One might say the world itself is a distraction. It is the distraction. And it takes all sorts of different shapes depending on which distractions appeal to you and which attractions set you off or terrify you. Because the one manipulating the appearances generally tends to know this. And if it doesn't know that about you specifically, does know all the possibilities within the specific bandwidth of operations. So, all people are probably afraid of a charging grizzly bear. Everyone doesn't want to get burned up in a fire. So there are safe assumptions you can make if you work for evil and you use distractions to intimidate or confuse people. And that's what goes on. The entirety of media, this is what it does. In the recent Visible Origami, I spoke about what I call the technocrat spiritual materialists, individuals who talk about, the age coming and, the advances we're making. I never mentioned God once. But, they're there for humanity's benefit, and they really want you to know that they're really here to help you out. And, by the way, they've got an entire supermarket of items that are for sale that, will probably help you, like, 100 different supplements, sometimes 200, all kinds of devices and medical apparatuses, and all of them, doctor tested. Dr. Frankenstein. Anyway, yeah, these carnival barkers, shillers, car salesmen, whatever it is that they are, they got into these formats in service of humanity, but really what they are is they're marketers. They're salespeople. They sell shit. And it's all shit, made into, a different shape. There's a different coloration to it. But everything's made out of the same thing. First matter. I mentioned it once, maybe in a blog, about Paracelsus. He had announced at one time that he was going to reveal the first matter, that from which everything had been created. And so all the learned, because Paracelsus was well known and highly respected, or at least feared by these academics and pundits. So for whatever the reason, they all showed up. And he had a silver chasing dish on a table. And when he thought everybody was there, more or less as many as they were going to get, he lifted the top off the chafing dish, and there was a turd. Some say it was Paracelsus' own turd, which would lend a certain degree of authenticity, I suppose. However, you might say that they were not amused. I think he may have thought that he was having them on or something, but actually he was telling them the truth. Now, if you want to be metaphysically precise, first matter is light. First matter is what everything is made out of. Well, everything is made out of condensed light, light in extension, frozen sunlight, everything. This desk, the camera looking at me, that guy, no, him, no, not you, Binky, him, yeah. Okay. Enough frivolity for the moment. It's all made out of light through adaptation. Hermes Trismegistus said it as precisely as anyone could ever say it, although it's very difficult to understand unless you know what it is you're supposed to understand. The fellow that said, as above, so below, as below, so above. Well, he did the Emerald Tablet, allegedly, and in that he made that point. He didn't say that light was the first matter, but he said there was one, and that everything we see is made as a result of the process of adaptation. From that, you can presume everything is vibrating, everything is made out of vibrations. You know, there are people that can afford anything. So they think they have a right to have the very best, to live the longest, to be the healthiest. After all, they have the resources, at least on the physical plane. And they probably think if they eat certain food, then they're going to do really, really well, unless this person over here tells them, no, you got to do this, or no carbohydrates, or keto, or eat only meat, or the various things, or stay away from all of that and go vegan, because honey is stealing from the bees, or something to that effect. But that's not how it works. Everything happens through prana. Prana is a process by which energy is converted. And there's more to it, but let's just leave it at that. It's simpler to just have it for the point I'm trying to make. There are 5 kinds of prana. One of them is what goes to work when you eat food. Another one when you breathe. Another one when you think. They are in 5 definite areas of your action within the body. And they convert energy in certain ways. So once again, we come back to the reality that everything is in your mind. And as you imagine it, so it comes to be. As you insist upon it, as you focus on it, as you the more intensely you can do that, the mind's going to keep replicating. What the mind does is take pictures. And it takes one picture after another. It keeps taking pictures. And that means the more pictures it takes, the more force there is going to be associated with it. Mm-hmm. So now you may see the reason for meditation, the reason for chanting, the reason for looking at pictures of spiritual teachers for long periods of time. Everything is about getting the mind focused on something particular. In times of materialism, like the time we're in right now, most people are focusing on these things outside themselves and what they want to eat or have intercourse with or own or sell or whatever it is that they do with these things. And God only knows they probably do everything you can think of these things, but probably not very well. God, well, I don't know what you are, Visible. We're here to discover that, aren't we? Oh, the simple pleasures of existence. I say, I'm taking a little liberties today. I'll be a little more frivolous because, and I don't usually like to pass this information around. I never really mention it or bring it up. But since it happens to be today, today is my birthday. And it's a very significant birthday. It's allegedly my 80th birthday, although I feel curiously unchanged. Stretched, you might say. Isn't that what Bilbo said? I'm feeling stretched. But otherwise, and he's getting quiet. Well, I got the same kind of thing, with the ring sort of a thing. Different ring, different manufacturer. But this will all be coming out at some point later on. Anyway, today is my birthday, and so I thought I'd mention that and use it as an excuse for my behavior today. But the fact of the matter is I don't always want to present as the same person and get a little boring, monotonous, kind of like the Krishnamurti video I watched part of earlier today. I was like, these things should be entertaining. You shouldn't be talking to people like going, and the consciousness you see, and there is chaos and disorder, and that's not good, but it is, and express, it goes on and on and on, but real slowly, slower even than that. I don't know, I don't want to put these people down. But it's supposed to be entertaining, isn't it? I mean, shouldn't you be able to hold people's attention? Yes, true. I could take my clothes off. That would work but it wouldn't work, on a regular basis, okay? And if I thought that was the way to go, I'd have an OnlyFans account. And I don't. I'll talk a little more about God, what God is. You may not like what I'm going to say here, and I don't really care. Religions. Religions are, filters that are put in front of that which you can't see in the first place, okay? They mostly exist for priests, because it's priests who make all the money and gain all the influence from religions, and they're the ones who dispense with and create the laws so that you're all living under the letter of the law instead of the spirit of the law. And people get crucified and burned at the stake and thrown in prison for long periods of time, or censured or marginalized. I know a little bit about that. I can't even get on Twitter now. I can't even see Twitter. I'm locked in a loop. And they didn't even say I did anything wrong. I got no notice, nothing. They just put me in a lockbox. So now I feel pretty important about that, but let's go back to what we're talking about. These religions, okay. Religions are misdirection. In most cases, they will give you basic format, and if you can reason it out, maybe you might make sense of it, maybe you might not. But they're not going to tell you anything deeper, because that's for them. Well, remember where I said that God and the devil are the same thing? They are. But there's two kinds of people. And that's why there's, two presentations of God. There's only one God, because only God has ever been this creature of conscious light. But when you're in darkness, when you're wearing the sunglasses of carnal desire over your eyes, and you only see things through that lens, well, when you see God, he's wearing that mask. It's still God, but it's God operating according to the laws of the jungle. You get what I'm saying here? The laws of the jungle. And the people that live in that format and who make their living off of it and who rule from various positions in there, they like that. They like it when the strong eat the weak. They figure that's the way it should be. They want to be tigers, but tigers are mortal. All forms are mortal, so there's a better way to go about it, and that's something else. Anyway, this all leads me to a story I want to tell, and I can't remember which of them was in the position. It's Vishnu on the one hand, Buddha on the other. And whether it was Buddha sitting in this location and Vishnu came upon him and saw him, or whether it was the other way around, I don't know, but I really don't think it matters. But we'll tell it as if it were Buddha. I'm sorry, no, as if it were Vishnu. And Vishnu is in hell. And he's in some chamber there. I guess there's fire around and everything else. And he's got naked ladies all around him, and he's eating meat, and various other carnal delights are going on. And allegedly, Buddha goes, "What are you doing here? You're God." And he said, "Yes, I'm God everywhere. What do you think, I don't do these things?" At that level, on that plane. But it's all an illusion. He isn't actually doing it, you see. But that is the power given it by the people who are there, who see God as engaging in the very thing that they engage in, which is where anthropomorphism comes from. Anthropomorphics. It's a tongue twister, folks. See, everything's about how things seem, how they appear, and how they are. And most of the time, things are not as they appear. They are what they are, as in it is what it is. But the appearance is something else, because all appearances are colored by your level of wanting or your nature of repulsion for one thing or another, what attracts you, what drives you away. This rules your existence. And until you get this resolved, and that's what karma is all about, and that yada, 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 you're going to be stuck in a loop too. It may not be a Twitter loop, but it'll be a loop. And it just goes on and on and on. You repeat things again and again. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's a big pain in the ass for anybody who's conscious enough to see through it. And if it doesn't work for me, I don't really care for it. I don't think it's anything you should care for. I think you should care for each other. But I think you should realize that you're being lied to by these religions and by these religious leaders, and that the devil's over there and God's over here, or that they're God's representative. Those who are filled with love represent God. Those who are impersonal in their way of behaving toward others, who are given completely to service, those are the friends of God. Those are the people doing God's work, because that's what God does all the time. You're just emulating God. People who are doing those other things, getting for self, looking out totally for their own interests, they're serving God too. But they're going to get that side of God when it all gets resolved. What side of God do you want to get? How do you plan on spending eternity? I'm not saying you go to the lake of fire and all that. That's a bit of an exaggeration. But it can be real bad, believe me. And it can go on for a very long time. And you got to consider how time is measured too. A day at the beach is different than a day in prison. Yeah, it's besides the absence of sand. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, you're just sorry. I had a moment of confusion there. Oh, my friends, it's all very, very simple, okay? Don't be taken in. Anybody who's asking you to send them money, that should be telling you something. Anybody who's setting up organizations and, got reams of paper and all the rest of that, they're running a business, okay? Anyone who's telling you need this, that, and the other thing has got a supermarket. Anyone who's just telling you the truth and doesn't want anything for it and really wants to know how they can help you out and do whatever they can for you with no expectation of reward, that's who you should be paying attention to. And that doesn't require a genius IQ to do. The simplest people sometimes are most effective at it, okay? See, the reason I'm telling you these things is it's going to get a little bit strange soon. It's going to get very strange, actually. It's going to get very, I like to use the word exciting, but I think other people might say terrifying. There are different ways of looking at it, depending on what your investments are, depending on what you think you've got to lose. I mean, I have nothing to lose. If I were to lose the presence of God, then I would have lost something indeed. But I'm never going to lose that. I have God's assurance that that's never going to happen. And that's all I care about. I shouldn't say that. That's what I care most about. And I care about being of service to that presence by what? Spreading that presence, sharing that presence. And to me, that's the greatest church there is. And the only teaching it has is celebrate the presence of God and share it with others. And do all that you can to help others in every moment when it comes to your attention as you serve, as you go along, because that's what life does. Life is going to provide you with these opportunities, and it's pass-fail. Well, it's cumulative. It adds up. Then you got a little more on the scale, then there's more on this scale. Right, Binky? God, Binky is so stoic. He never even moves. He sits there, he pretends like he's inanimate. Yeah, you ought to see what happens when the camera's off. No, it's PG, but I mean, well, my friends, I don't really know how long I've been doing this, but I feel like I've been getting, you see, I look over this way, that the clock is down there on the side of my monitor, and it doesn't really tell me anything because I can't remember when I started. I'm really efficient. I'm very organized, very well organized. I think my life lives as ample proof of that. Look, people jammed up on each other hear the noise of the world. They don't hear the presence of God. Think about it. And the world, when it changes via the generations. God sends in new generations, and the people that show up, they're not all got good intentions, but they're all here to get, justice or something, or what they didn't get the last time, or and God arranges it in such a way that these generations appear, and it all works out in a certain fashion where justice gets dispensed, and people get temporarily what they thought they wanted, or people, I got a better chance of getting closer to the things they want, or they get to fall in love with that person this time they didn't get to have last time, and then they realize maybe they were lucky last time. Yeah. My friends, as I say, it's going to get a bit dicey because the people who think they're in charge, they're not allowed to let go. They're holding on for dear life, and God is just taking the strength from their fingers. And then they won't be able to hold on anymore. And they'll, like you see those scenes in movies where the person gets detached from the cord that holds them to the spaceship, and they go, yeah, that's what happens when you get out on the rim. Eventually, because the wind is strong in your ability to hold on to the winds of change I'm talking about. So what you want to do is to try to develop stillness, because into that stillness, God comes. God dwells in the stillness. And the more still you can become, which means you're not being driven by your hungers, you're not being driven by wanting, there's not all that the crackling of the flames of desire who are around you. If you can get into that stillness, there you go. And how do you do that? You do it through meditation and prayer in the quiet hours. Why not make your whole life a quiet hour? Get out of the throngs of people wanting, these maddening crowds. For what? And then it's done. Then you want to do it again. Yeah. Only you didn't even do it very well the first time. Well, that's why, because I think I can do better next time. I hope so. My friends, well, we got through that, I think, rather well. I really don't know. I mean, it really depends on how you feel about me, I suppose. And, well, no, actually, first it depends on how you feel about yourself. Then it depends on how you feel about me, which is determined by how you feel about yourself. So I hope you're feeling good about yourself. Binky, I want you to say goodbye to these very nice people here. God, I don't know what I'd do without you, Binky. See, Binky's my idea of religion, but I can go around Binky anytime I want, just like I can go around religion anytime I want, because religion has nothing to do with me. But new forms of thought and new religions are coming now soon, and one of them is the practicing of the presence of God will one day become one of the foundations of the religious practices of the coming age. I'm quite certain of it. It may sound outrageous to you now, but I'm not going to be running it. God runs everything. I'm not even a functionary. I mean, I do little things around the office, I bring pencils to this person and paper to these people, and yes, your lordship, and and how may I'll be your waiter today, that kind of thing. That's kind of pretty much what I do. I don't serve in any high capacity. I have no desire to, however qualified I might be. Look, when you love God, and it finally gets through, and God is able to get through your defenses to love you back, You really don't need anything else. Oh man, you don't need nothing else. You don't want nothing else except more of the same. And you get more of the same because you keep doing it. You keep doing it stronger and more intensely, and it gets closer and closer, and it becomes more and more amazing and unbelievable. So what else is there? You tell me. Nothing. It's all you fooling yourself or someone else, if what you want depends on your being able to effectively do that. And there are people out there that got PhDs in that. I was saying good night, wasn't I? Oh, it's 7:01. Dear God, where's the time gone? But it might not be 7:01 where you are. So I have the advantage here, actually. Well, I'm going to go put up another chapter of the Dark Splendor. I'm going to try to get this out this evening. I'm going to put the song out tomorrow, write Monday's post. I've got a great deal to do, and I appreciate your, not being upset about that, and helping me by not interfering with, whatever I'm trying to do. That probably didn't make any sense, did it? I had a reason for saying it. My friends, may the love of God shine profoundly upon and within you. May the presence of God come upon you, and may all else pass away, and may you dwell in the utter and endless bliss of the presence of the Almighty God. This is what I wish for you. This is also your destiny. How long that takes to go down, that does rely a lot upon you. God bless you, my friends.